Welcome to Licking Non-Vanilla, a sex-positive hour of talk about kink, sexual mores, and writing dirty words. So grab a cup of cocoa, your favorite easy chair, and the lube as we go sailing into the dark, sweet waters of all things naughty. On Licking Non-Vanilla, with your hosts Ralph Greco Jr. and M. Christian.
There we are, Chris. We're waiting for the countdown, as we always do when we start the show. These big white. I've said this before. These big white letters come up from our producer, and it reminds Chris and I of the old Thunderbird show. And so, you remember that show? So that the trilling of beautiful female voice you hear is well, let me tell you where we are. First of all, you've tripped across Licking Non-Vanilla once again, and I'm your host, one of your hosts, Ralph Greco Jr. Across the aisle from me is
Chris, otherwise known as M. Christian on the Pacific Northwest,
and his name, and Chris and I are trying to furrow through the craziness that is the world at the moment, or always has been, and with our sex-positive talk and our little naughty insights, and get your Kleenex ready. Anyway, today we're talking to a fellow writer, a fellow smut scribe, by the name of Megan Hussey, and we'll get into the fact that her name is Megan Hussey, which she writes. But we want to welcome Megan on the show, and we'll get to talking to her right now. How you doing, Megan? How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
We're good. How you doing over there, Chris? You doing pretty good?
Doing well.
That's good. We're all trying to surf the weather. Megan, just before we came on the air, I did ask you how to pronounce your name, and and you said it was Megan Hussey. That's a little too perfect, dear.
Yes, I was obviously born to do what I do, and it's so funny because one of my best friends, she was not aware until recently, and she's like, "Oh, what's your real name, by the way?" And I said, "You know it." She's like, "No," and she refused to believe me. Yes, but actually, it's an Irish name. And it actually, back in Ireland, it actually stands for strength.
Oh, okay.
And so to me, that's the perfect combo for me.
Now, so, Megan, you are one of the people that uses your own name in what you write, right?
Yes.
Okay. You're not using a pseudonym, because I don't use a pseudonym, and Chris uses a slight deviation, but when I come across people like us all, and we're not hiding, so to speak, under a pseudonym. I don't know if that's the right word to use. But do you find that you've gotten, not in trouble, but you've had some sort of hiccups over that?
Yes. There have been a few. Actually, early in my career, I did try to use a pseudonym, but I just didn't feel comfortable with it because I just thought, I'm proud of my work. I want to be known for it, and I want to be known for promoting, and, if anything to me, I want to encourage women to enjoy their sexuality and be more open about it, so it just didn't feel right to me, to use a fake name and then tell women to be more genuine, And, but yes, I understand why people do it now, because I did have at least one person refuse to work with me on a project because they found out that I was an erotica and adult industry writer, and was very mean, and insulting about it. And there have also just been certain, the things with friends who are on the conservative side. But the way I call it, it's I think I might have said this to you one time on Twitter, or one of the authors, when you get that email that starts out, "Now I know this can't be you."
Right, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it is. And so, there have been some uncomfortable moments, but for the most part, I'm really, I'm proud of my work. And so, I went with my real name.
What do you think, Chris? I mean, we've both been there,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I use mine just because I've never liked my name. It's not like I'm trying to hide something. I just think my name is just blah. So,
Right.
and I also like the idea of like having this separate identity, but that's just me. But yeah, I mean, it's like there are some risks that always comes about when you use your real name. And of course, like when we teach our erotica writing class, we always talk about, always kind of like weighing your risks. So, if you have a really sensitive job or a family that's on the, conservative side, a pseudonym might be a good idea. But if not, then absolutely, use whatever name you want to use.
And Megan, Chris, is like us in the fact that she does write beyond just the adult industry. She's doing other things. So that's always my concern is, Megan, that sometimes, and I'm like you, sometimes I have not lost the job, but I know I've not been considered for something because they found out about, the other stuff I do,
Yes. And, well, it was funny, I remember, because I'm also a newspaper reporter.
Yeah.
And not my current, job, but the one before it, my editor had actually Googled me, and she said that, and I see that she mostly emphasized the paranormal side of my writing.
Oh, okay.
Most of what I write is paranormal. And so she's like, that's cool. You're a published author and you write paranormal. And I said, yes, but I tell you at the time, my new release at that time was called Naked Siren, about a merman. And so we're having this pleasant interview, and she's like, it's so cool you're a writer. She said, what's your new release? And I just said, Siren.
Right.
Well, I just got left out the naked part.
Right. You delete the stuff you know.
Yeah.
Right. So when it comes to the erotica that you find yourself writing now, are you writing across genres, or do you find you gravitate towards a certain kind that really does charge you up mostly?
Yes, now, definitely my favorite, and most of my work can be found in paranormal, and I've always loved to write about, mermen, vampires, and, certain, I've also written some variants, like fairies, and so, yes, I really love the paranormal. I grew up reading that, and I really loved that, but at the same time, I've also done contemporary. I'm working on a novel right now, The Leading Lady, that is really more of a throwback to, like, the Jackie Collins.
Okay.
That was popular in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
Because I honestly feel that unfortunately in some ways we've almost gone backwards, away from her, more submissiveness and more heroines that you don't really, at least I can't relate to. And so I really wanted to bring back a strong, sexy heroine, and like, she had the book, The Bitch, The Stud, Hollywood Wives.
Yes.
So, that's kind of what I was looking for. And my publisher suggested that, too. She thought I'd be good at writing. And so, I've written just about every type of erotica. And,
So over the years, I mean, Chris and I have done the same. We've traipsed across a whole bunch of different kinds of erotica, and I guess we gravitate towards. Chris, would you say you gravitate towards more of the genre science fiction side of things?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's my preference, but it really depends on what someone wants or what the project asks for. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's pretty much my weakness. I have written some fantasy. I know you have too, Rafi. But I just, maybe because I'm just such a geek, I just kind of lean myself towards more science fiction-y kind of stuff.
Right. And Megan, would you agree, like, as we grow and we change and, things come in and out of our experience, we tend to gravitate towards something maybe, in our 20s that we didn't gravitate towards in our 30s, that kind of a thing?
Yes, absolutely. And I always like to try, new genres. I mean, with me, as long as the constants of my work are there, which would mean a very strong, resourceful, realistic heroine, and a man who is attractive, respectful, those are, you can find that guaranteed in any of my titles that I would refuse to write differently. I've been asked, given offered big contracts to write differently, and I just won't do it, and so to me, those are the constants, but beyond that, I'll try any genre, I really enjoy them all.
And at this point with 30 books on Amazon, and we could just talk a little bit about the business part of it. Chris and I go on and back and forth about this all the time. What's your overall feeling about the Amazoniing of the culture, and how they've taken over publishing in general? How do you feel about that in general as far as the business goes?
Well, yes, it seems like, there is something of a monopoly. And, it's really, I definitely sell the most books off of Amazon, but I know that there are authors who have problems, Now, personally, I'm kind of 50-50. I've gone through publishers, like my main publisher is Satin Romance, and, I've also published with, Phase and Class Act Books and several others. And so in that case, it's totally out of my hands. I just leave it to the publishers, and I'm fine. But I've also self-published on Amazon. So, personally, I haven't had problems, but I do understand there are other authors who have, and you do want to see a little more variety, especially for indie authors.
Yeah, Chris, I think Chris and I fall in the same category. I would say the way you just expressed it. There is the good and the bad. I just wonder at this point, though, and like you said too, this is something Krista and I talk about all the time. There are times when that's out of your hands. It is a publisher's purview and what they're going to do with the work and how they're going to do it. Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, what I was going through Megan's bio and stuff, which I find really cool. She just landed a job. Can you talk about the job you have working for Afterglow?
Oh, yes. Well, I'm actually working with several feminist adult companies that go to end of the spectrum. And that's something that I always wanted to explore more. I came into the adult industry actually writing for Playgirl.
Yeah, I see that.
Playgirl TV. I was actually the head of Playgirl fan club. I did DVD cover copy, some marketing writing. I did a little bit of writing for Dusk Channel for Women, Good Vibrations. And, I wanted to get more into the visual side. It just seemed more difficult, especially for a woman. But really, and it was kind of like when I became the feminist sexpert, which Rob also writes a great column for.
And so does Chris.
Yep,
Chris,
we all do.
We have all written for them, actually, yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and, it really, because I got to talking to some of these people, and I was just actually, is how it's called. Kind of like the annoying lady at the end of The Simpsons.
Right. Yeah.
FHHH. So I'm working for them and for an amazing woman, who is like a veteran in the feminist porn industry. So I'm doing some stories for her and also working on an audio play script. And then for Afterglow, which is another fantastic site, I'm going to be doing DVD cover copy and, maybe eventually other writing. And really, what has just kind of amazed and touched me is that I think during my days at Playgirl, I kind of got a little bit of a name in the industry. Like I also worked for Implicit, which was an adult magazine for women. And my publisher was like, oh yeah, I know your name, And so it's like I kind of had already a place in the industry that I didn't even know. And so now I'm working with these fabulous women, and they're being so kind and complimentary of my work. And so I'm just thinking, wow, where do I go next? Do I write scripts? Do I become a director?
Right. Well, what do we say, Chris, all the time? You don't burn a bridge, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that, and Chris, I think that the writers that we've talked to, you and I included, when we talk to ourselves or when we're not playing with ourselves, it seems to be a lot of us do gravitate towards the visual, whether it's writing copy, script. You know, I wonder why that is, Chris. What do you think? We're all visual minded that way because we write what we write?
I think so. I think there's a good percentage of that. I mean, I know I'm a very visual person. I mean, when I write, I know about you, Rafi, but I kind of picture it as a movie. But, cause we're kind of visual creatures, human beings and all. But I think, erotica particularly is it's kind of a visual thing. And, not that other, senses don't come in there, but, that is kind of like, how we interpret sex sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that also one of the reasons that I really want to get into that side of it is that there seems to be a perception that women are not visual sexually and in terms of erotica. Mm-hmm. And, they turn to lots of studies and but really, in my opinion, they are. From women that I've talked to, they're every bit as visual, but you need to show them something they like, because when you think about it, even with the written work, it's like, okay, romance novels. Well, how do they sell the romance novel? They put a Fabio type guy on the cover.
Yeah.
Or they put a passionate couple interlocked, Mm-hmm. And so, women, for years they've watched and enjoyed soap operas. It's like the Chippendale Dance Group has been around for nearly 40 years now. And so, women are visual. It's just that I think that the adult industry, it's been an evolution, I think, very slowly since the late 80s. And that I think women need to see something a little different, but, I think we're every bit as visual.
And you just mentioned a big buzzword that we hear all the time. Evolution. The growth, the reassessing of roles. And how have you taken to the last 5-10 years in how things have changed for the better or the worse? And that's a personal assessment. But in the way we are viewing, sexuality and women's empowerment and the whole kind of thing. What's your? Can you encapsulate that, or is it too big of a subject?
Oh, no, because and that's an excellent way to put it when you have better and the worse, because I think that for the better, yes, there's much more empowerment. There are far more women getting into directing and writing, adult, and there's much more in terms of, to show an example, I remember the first time that I visited an adult store when I'd just gotten out of college. I was talking to, it was a woman, so she's very cool, very nice, but I said, I looked at the movies, and I'm like, okay, I'm seeing a lot of this hooker and this babysitter, and the hooker and the babysitter, and all that, and so, and I said, surely you have something, you're a woman, you have something for women, and she said, I don't think they make stuff for women. And so I named off several titles that I knew about, but then she asked her distributor, and he was like, no, I don't. And, but by contrast, when I went around and asked again to some of it, because I live in the Tampa Bay area, and there are just as many adult stores as there are McDonald's. It's like, it's not more. Right. And so when I ask again, every one of them, we have a whole section for women, we have a whole section for couples, and I think that's fabulous. On the bad side, I think that there's been a little bit of a backlash to that, and I am concerned, even being part of the industry, at some of the violence and roughness that I sometimes see, and because, and also it seems like if an actress does bring a complaint, then it's just going to pushed under the carpet a little bit. It just seems like we're not taking it seriously enough. And also, when I hear, there was one actress who said that they asked her, in the movie, they asked her to put on a T-shirt that said feminist so they could beat her up on camera,
Yeah, it's kind of...
Okay, that's not even... Okay, that doesn't even have anything to do with sex. Let's do the hate,
Yeah.
And so on one hand, and I'm not afraid to speak out about that. And that's one of the reasons I actually took a break from the visual side of the industry because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought, what good is that going to do? I was just taking away my voice. And so now I'm back.
Yeah, I guess, you just have to traipse across this all on a case-by-case basis and just do for you. You can't tend anybody else's garden. You just have to figure, well, this is what I feel, and I'm going to say this, and whether I get criticism or compliment, I don't know. This is just what I feel, and I'll put this into this and see where it goes, and this is where we're at,
Yes. I mean, I always think that the best thing that you can always do is to make your own content, or to, if you want, to write about the content that you'd like to see. And it's like I was interviewing this very popular porn actor named Nathan Bronson. He's like one of the leading men. He's a gorgeous and very kind man. And I said, I love it. I've heard you say that you ask your ladies and also that you work with and also your fans, what do you want? And he said, well, yeah, I ask. And he said, but sometimes I don't get complete sentences in response. And that's another thing we need to address. It's like, yeah, thank you. Speak up.
Right. Well, I guess through all what we're doing and trying to be honest with what we do, I guess we just hope to not only entertain, but maybe make it easier for people to speak up.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, why don't we tell our licking non-vanilla, because I have to get that in there, why don't we tell our licking non-vanilla audience where they can find you and what's coming up immediately for you?
Yes. Well, I do have a website at goldenmuse.tripod.com.
Okay.
And you can also find me at Sexpert, where I'm the feminist Sexpert. And I write for Simplicit.com. And I believe that my first story with which is shh.com, I think it's coming out on July 20th. And then in a couple months, I'll be working at Afterglow. And the novel, my next novel, The Waiting Lady, is going to be early next year.
Cool, very good. Now, all that stuff all that information, we're going to put on our blog when this episode airs, so we'll get that in writing as well for people. And we'll do all that kind of stuff and get it back to you, and get all that good stuff going. Well, Chris and I have been talking about this for a while. We try to avoid the subject, but it keeps coming up. How wacky the last year has been. Let's leave our listeners with an idea of, as we land back in some sort of sense of wherever we are at, what your overall view of the sexual world is presently.
Yes, well, I think that, of course, it did have an impact, and I think that there a lot of more people were opt to turn to porn, but not a lot of porn obviously was being produced, and so I think they, first of all, I think it was all about surviving, taking care of themselves and each other. But I think with a lot of the ladies that I talked to, it was, it has been a very challenging year, but I think that it also expanded the realm of fantasy, because we had to, I think that in a way that too is empowering if you can claim your own, there's some women who obviously were not able to have partners, during the time, and including myself, actually. And, it just makes you self-reliant,
right.
so to speak. And it just, I've always learned that you have to be able to take care of yourself. And by take care of yourself, pay your own bills if you have to. Well, always pay it, in my opinion. Always pay your own bills. And, give yourself your own orgasms.
Right. Economics and sexuality. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, Megan, I can't thank you enough. I mean, we've had been a very enlightening conversation. Chris and I were just saying we love talking to other dirty writers. We don't do it often enough, right, Chris?
Absolutely. It's always nice to, I mean, not the other guests have been fantastic, but it's like when I heard a bunch of being on the show, it was like, oh my God, another writer. This is fantastic. Wahoo.
It's
I tell you, that's exactly the way I felt when I saw Ralph's columns. It's like, oh, an article writer, and I really appreciate you having this forum, and I definitely plan to spread the word among other article writers.
Thank you. I mean, I think, Chris, could you say, like, we generally don't find other erotica writers in competition. We all seem to be having a good time and want to help each other out and want to talk to each other.
Absolutely. That's one of the good things about the genre is like, I mean, there's always, some people are going to be, a little bit more on the jerk scale, but by and large, people are usually pretty, flexible and nice and really supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's funny, just quickly, that's kind of how I was able to get published. Back when I ran Playgirl Fan Club, there were actually erotica publishers, in there, and I know one of them wrote to me, and I had almost given up on being published, and she said, oh, hey, she said, I really like the stories that you've written on Playgirl.com. I really enjoy them. She said, I'm putting together an erotic anthology. Would you like to contribute? And so I think it's very important that we have that sense of community and that we help each other out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we hope that we do so doing this. And once again, thank you, Megan. It's Megan, by the way, guys, it's Megan Hussey. You didn't get that wrong.
Of all the Hussies I know, Megan is probably the best. I have to say that.
You're the nicest Hussey we know, Megan.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Well, it was so funny when my sister is actually a government, like a high-ranking government official. I'm sure she wants me telling that. And she, Vicky, okay, I'm banned from the family. Anyway, but no, when Kim got married, she kept her own name, and my dad, who was still alive at the time, he was like, I really support that because she's accomplished a lot as a Hussy.
Right. See?
I was like, okay, that's not the way you meant it. I've accomplished a lot as a Hussy.
A high-functioning Hussy. Good. Megan, thank you again so much. We'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you.
And you be well, and we're going to click off from you now, and we'll do a little wrap-up on our own. Thank you, Megan. Thank you so much. That was Megan Hussey, everybody.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
So Chris.
Oh, that was wonderful. She is such a delight. That is,
She's a wonderful person.
That's absolutely. We ought to get her back on again because it's so nice to have someone, first of all, who's doing so much good work, and two, just like a delight to talk to.
Yeah, and again, we find this over and over that the fellow erotica writers are really fun people, and there's not any of that kind of icky like, oh, I wrote this and you wrote that, and I don't want to talk to you because there's none of that. Like I see it across the board. That's how we met. I mean, we met because although we happen to be, exemplary examples, you and I, but generally, it's just weird how that happens.
It is. I think. Writing is a difficult job, and we both know that. It's like it puts your emotions in a ringer. To pour your heart and soul into something, and then either get weird comments or publishers who just aren't interested. But again, it's like we're all in this together, and and as she proved perfectly, I think that's like. The more you network and the more you make friends, the easier it gets. Because, you and I have talked about this many times. Like when we hit a bump in the road or we're feeling cruddy, it's like having someone to talk to or, commiserate with can really make a world of difference.
Yeah, and like what's good, I don't know, and I know this, I know you feel this way, and I don't know, not everybody feels this way, unfortunately, but we're wrapped up pretty tightly as far as the feelings and the highs and lows of each other. So when we experience something, we empathize on both ends. You know, you have something great happening. I'm like, oh, that's great. You know, it makes me feel good. So like today, you know, I was able to share a couple of possible jobs with you this morning, and I sent him, and I was thrilled because I was cultivating him a little bit. You know how you have to like throw it out there and see what happens. And I can't always just, and you know this too, sometimes we have to take a while before we introduce somebody else.
Exactly.
But it feels good to spread that kind of stuff around. I mean, you know, we both need to work, so that on a just on a general economic level. But yeah, be able to spread that around, and you know, and you only do that, I guess, because everybody that you deal with, and I mean, I don't do too many erotic writers other than you, really, are people that you want to hang with and be with and talk to and have a good time with and feel and share good news with and like you say, also commiserate. There are times when we've talked that nobody would understand what we're talking about. That you know, the non-writer, the non-erotic scribe wouldn't understand the tribulation. And there are times we just get on the phone and gab, and it just feels better. Not that we're solving any of the world's problems. We're just trying to do as best we can. So I think, like, no matter what it is you do, it may be a good idea to seek out your fellows in that industry if you can, and they are open to it. Just to maybe not sometimes even to talk about the thing, just to have them around and know that they're of the same mindset, so you can at least share a beer and know that, okay, this, even if I'm not talking about my problems right now, this person understands even my body language. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why it's so special to me. You sent me those leads, and I'm trying to round up some as well, because again, this can be a very lonely gig. I mean, you think, once again, it's like there's so few writers themselves, at least ones who are like kind of professionals at this, and then it's like trying to find ones that do the same genre, and erotica's pretty much a very good genre when it comes to like people having good publishers and editors and such, but it still can be somewhat isolating, because it's when you actually say that that you're looking for like smutty writers as opposed to like other genres, to find someone you can sort of commiserate with, I think makes things a lot easier. Because, again, this is like, it can be a very challenging life, and all it takes is hearing that somebody else is having exactly the same or near the same kind of experience. It just really does help.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And I think that, we probably don't do enough of that, because, not you and I, because, again, we're perfect, but we probably don't do enough of that, because we're all just trying to scramble. And like Megan said, pay your bills, so difficult, and it's and especially if you do something that's a little bit more contingent upon people's subjective viewpoint. We probably don't take the time to just sit back with somebody and not even talk about the thing, just talk about whatever. But people in the same, in the same business you are in or whatever, that'll understand. But yeah, reach out, everybody, if you can. Make you. I think when you can share stuff with people, it makes you feel better overall. I think generally, and I think that's what's make the last year has been so difficult, because we haven't been able to do that in the right way, and hopefully we can. Hopefully we are starting to.
Absolutely, I think things are like. Again, it's like all it takes is a little kindness, a little support to make things considerably better. And I think this really important lesson is that. Especially writers, but everybody is like, you're not alone. I mean, we will. It may take a while, but we are going to get through this. And especially things like writing, which is problematic on the best of times. You need to find as many people to commiserate with, support with, and who understands what the business is like, and understand how how it can be beautiful and also just totally infuriating.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, on a final note here, Chris, and it's something we talked about before we got on the air, but let's mention David Lambert has died. He was actually get to the ripe old age of 90. And David Lambert, for people who don't know, and you're going to read that on our blog, which is on the website right now, was the inventor of the Symbian, and which is a sex aid device that I think a lot of women rode to multiple orgasms. And if you haven't seen the device, Howard Stern was a big proponent and got his guests to ride them. But I was reading the literature today. He talked about the hoax of the hoax of, I forgot what he called it, but something like the hoax of humping. In other words, hetero humping being good, being fulfilling for both the male and the female, when we all know that, pistoning, stroking, he said, male stroking works great for males, but we know that ladies come up a little short in that area. I don't know about you, but my experience has been that not a lot of women orgasm through intercourse.
Correct.
Only. And he was a proponent of making sure, because all ladies are built different, sometimes they can't be stimulated clitorally from that, from intercourse. So anyway, he died, but he invented this great machine. If you've never seen it, it really is something. So, have you ever seen? I mean, I don't know if I've even seen one in person. Have you seen one in person?
I think
or had used one, or just had fun with one, or
I haven't used one, obviously. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, because it's like as long as you enjoy penetration play, you can use one. I think I did see one. It was at some party. This is a long time ago. But yeah, I particularly like the fact that he really has been with us for a long time, and he did some really cool stuff with this. And I like the fact again that the message of this isn't sex is like it's one of those myths of sexuality, is that idea of penetration, or at least that kind of penetration is the end all be all. So I think that was really cool, and I love the fact that again it's like. Even when did you say? Because you did that wonderful write up. When did you say it was first came on the scene?
I'm going to say 86, 85 or so, and then 11 years later or so, he invented the Venus for Men, which is a male masturbatory device. Which is interesting, because a man doesn't have to be erect to get an orgasm from that.
Right.
So I think he was felling a lot of tropes and stereotypes with what he was doing.
But yeah, he's been around for a long time, and it's commendable. I mean, the fact that he, once again, it's like developed this machine and then made it part of, human sexuality. It was like, that's really admirable. And as you said, also, it's like there are some ones that are kind of like, new ones that are sort of trying to do the same thing. But it's a classic, and I think he deserves the applause for, bringing it out. And then I love the way he, again, his message. I think that's really wonderful.
Yeah, because. I too many, especially when you're just, for a hetero guy, when you're just getting started in your sexuality, you're all your nerve endings are right there. All you want to do is have that thing rubbed against something, right? It doesn't have to be anybody, but and you don't realize that there's an infinite amount of ways to bring pleasure to yourself and to somebody else. A female.
Absolutely.
Anything to do with pistoning, and humping. And we learn that over the years. It takes a while, but we learn it, Hopefully we learn it. Chris and I have learned it. We're so involved. We've learned it. So, Chris, the time passes too quickly between you and I when we do.
It does. It does. Well, this is always fun, and thank you again for winding up, Ms. Hussey, because that was really absolutely wonderful, and always looking forward to it.
Hussies, Chris. Listen, everybody, I think we're in the middle of some heat. We're in the middle of some rain, so everybody stay well in the weather. Stay safe and healthy and all that usual stuff that we say. And we want to thank Megan Hussey again for her time and her good words. And you have been listening to Licking Non-Vanilla. And I am one of your hosts. My name is Ralph Greco Jr. And I'm... across the aisle from me. Who are you? Go ahead.
I'm Chris, otherwise known as M. Christian.
Right. But you got to call him M. Christian. Don't call him Chris. You don't know him that well. Chris, it's been a great time as always.
Always, Ralphie. Always fantastic.
And we hope you enjoyed listening to the show. And write us if you're around and you want to hear some stuff, or compliment. Yeah, definitely only write as compliments. We don't want to hear criticism.
No criticism. Won't respond. Nope, sorry, not happening.
That's right. But you can find us everywhere. So look at Twitter. We're at Licking NV there, or whatever we're doing, and we're all over the place. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening, guys, and bye-bye.
And visit us on the web at www.lickingnonvanilla.com.